I'm very excited today. I have Elia Mak. You go by Elia Mak or Elia Song Mak?
I go by both.
Okay, Elia Song Mak, who is with Carbon Black, and Elia is the VP of Brand and Creative Services. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rajiv. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, Elia, you have an amazing background, amazing journey. And I want to start with, what is it that you do? What does your role entail at Carbon Black as VP of Brand and Creative Services?
Well, great question. I manage the Brand and Creative Services team,
Okay.
as well as the website team.
Okay.
I'll start with the Brand and Creative Services team because there's two main key functions. From the brand side, we manage the overall brand strategy. That
Okay.
could be brand positioning, the brand architecture, building all the various assets, and then deployment of that.
Okay.
From the creative services side, we are an internal creative agency that supports all the requests that are coming in from companies as well as sub-companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like dealing with all kinds of external clients and internal clients.
Yeah.
Taking requests.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right. Mostly it's internal.
Internal
so-
clients.
Right.
Internal stakeholders that
That's right.
want you to change whatever things on the website or make these kinds of tweaks or adjustments on copy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So R&D might ask, hey, we need some assistance with the product.
Right.
Branding or logo placement or new logos.
Right.
Or the sales org might say, hey, we need a new pitch deck or a collateral or any kind of assets they need to help promote their pitches and conversations that they have with potential customers.
Got it.
So we have quite a few diverse set of projects that come in. We work from trade show booth to user conferences to building a new website
Right.
to more traditional work like collateral.
Right.
So it's really fun. We
Right.
pump out about 65, 70 projects a month.
Wow.
Which is quite
That is a lot.
astonishing
Yes.
for a small but
That's amazing.
mighty customer or
Company.
team.
So, Elia, I mean, you've been at Carbon Black for 3 years. Amazing journey during that time you've been there, from the IPO that happened 18 months ago in May 2018 to recently the announcement of VMware, VMworld, where you're being acquired by VMware for $2.1 billion. Amazing. So I'd love to talk to you about the IPO part of your journey and the roadshow and your involvement there, because you did a lot of things to help with that entire process. Talk to us a little bit about what that was like and what
Yeah.
you did.
No, it was fantastic, and it's my second IPO.
Second IPO.
Yeah,
First one
so-
was Zynga.
Yep, yeah.
Right? Yes.
Got to give props to them.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, so this is my second IPO, and it was fantastic. Obviously, it was a huge team effort across all the various departments, from finance to marketing to all sorts of people that were required to do this.
Okay.
We had been thinking about the IPO for some time, obviously. And so there was a lot of due diligence that happened, more on the corporate executive team side and the finance and whatnot. But where I got involved with my counterpart, Eric Marti, shouts out to him. He's an amazing man. We worked very closely, and what we were involved in was the roadshow, right?
Okay.
The presentation for that,
Right.
the video.
The IPO video, the website.
Yeah, that's right. The
update,
website, the S1.
The Times Square advertisement.
The Times
Yes.
Square, NASDAQ,
Yeah.
that was us.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
so we
right.
had a fantastic time. We actually, interesting enough, brought that back in.
Okay.
So that was something that was going to be done externally, and we weren't quite happy with it. It wasn't cohesive with everything else that we were working on. And as you know, when you think about the company and the company as the brand, if there's one thing that wasn't inconsistent, it just throws everything off.
Sure.
So we brought that in. We had a great time building the NASDAQ advertising and all the little various things that are involved in it, even the social media tile. And it was fun. It was long hours, round the clock,
Amazing.
reading the S1 document zillions of times.
Right,
But the story was there, and
Right.
we were all very confident and happy with it. And the messaging, along with the visual, all came together in the end. So we were super happy and
What an incredible experience.
yeah,
Incredible
it was very
experience.
fun.
So, obviously, brand strategy is really important for any business, small or large. And you talk about it in the sense of the North Star and communicating that at all levels and the vision of that. Tell me a little bit about that thinking. I love how you sort of talk about that as the North Star, the guiding North Star.
Yeah. Well, I'll step a little bit back and just go on a higher level about brand and just brand and how important that is and how
Yes.
valuable
Let's
that
talk
is.
about that.
And it's even it's even more important now. If you look at design-led companies, right, it doesn't matter where you get your data points, where your sources are. The net is everything is better if you're a design-led company, right? You have higher market share. You have higher customer loyalty. When there's a PR crisis, companies that are design-led and have a strong brand are able to withstand that, right? So, so you always have to go back to what your brand strategy is and have that incorporated into the company, right? You know, company's evolving, their strategy evolves, your product is evolving, everything's evolving, but if your brand doesn't evolve, then there's a disconnect, and that's where companies I've seen fail. So always having that North Star, figuring out what that is, clarity around that, alignment around that, and then having a clear vision of how to deploy that is super key. Yeah.
So when you talk about companies evolving and products evolving, how do you then translate that into the brand evolving?
Yeah. Well,
what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think they're all intertwined, right? When you look at when you look actually at the landscape, the market landscape, you see what where the opportunities are, right? Your vision still has to stay the same. And at Carbon Black, our vision has always stayed the same from day one, right? And it's to create a world safe from cyber attacks.
Right.
If you stay true to that vision and you know what your mission is, then by default you're going to have to figure out how to evolve that product, right? How to improve that product. And does that stay true to who we are and our values and our brand? And a lot of that has to do with communication, right? A lot of that has to do with a brand having a seat at the table.
Right.
Yeah. So
when you think about brand, what are the components that sort of make up a design-led branding philosophy?
Positioning,
Yep.
right? The brand architecture, right? How does everything fit together? What are we trying to say with our brand? Who are we? You know, we are a data-driven company, as is a lot of software company, right?
Days, right?
But you also have to factor in the emotive component, right? Brand is very emotive.
Yes.
You are not buying a product, right? You are not buying a service. You're buying the brand, right? And if your brand is broken, I don't know, how long are you going to last, right?
There's that sort of visceral emotional connection that
That's
people
right.
can actually feel when they see a brand that they know they resonate with.
Yes, right.
And so bringing it back to being design-led and having brand at the seat of the table, I think is really paramount and really
That's
important.
correct.
I love the way you say that as well, because if you don't, then I think, there's going to be a lot of broken things in the process or with the identity of the positioning or the logo or that emotive response you're trying to look for.
Right. And consistency is super key, right? You have to be consistent. You have to be cohesive. I think now it's even further, right? It's not about just keeping up with the pace, right? It's not just being about cohesiveness, and it's not just about being consistent throughout all your various touch points.
Right.
Technology has, totally changed the way we live and how we act and our lifestyle. Information is given because there's so much of it and there's transparency around it. So brand also, and the company also needs to think of, how do you make an impact, right? How are you going to boldly but thoughtfully disrupt your industry, right? And that is part of that brand too, right? The brand strategy, the company strategy. So, there's a lot of things happening, exciting things happening.
I mean, it almost starts with that sort of brand identity,
Yeah.
I think, in terms of that specifically around disruption. I mean, when I think of like some brands that have disrupted industries, what comes to mind is that brand identity. At least for me, I think of companies like Lyft or Uber that have completely disrupted the transportation, business, the ride-sharing business. I think with the brand and the way they've positioned themselves. Going back to Carbon Black, in terms of what you guys have done for cybersecurity and threats and such. Maybe we should actually just talk a little bit about what Carbon Black does.
Sure.
For those of you who don't know, tell us a little bit about what Carbon Black does.
Sure.
Yes.
So Carbon Black is a cybersecurity company based in Boston.
Yep.
And from, again, day one, our vision has always been to create a world safe from cyber attacks. We have about over 5,600 customers.
Okay.
A third of that is Fortune 100, and they all trust us right, to protect them from cyber attacks.
Right.
So it's really an interesting space. It's a hot space.
Well, and just bringing it back to again to brand, I think the trust also resonates where when you think about cyber security or cyber threats, and you think about a brand or a company, Carbon Black comes to mind.
Absolutely.
Because you're trusted by over 5,600 companies, there's almost like a FOMO there that, hey, if you're not using Carbon Black for this particular service, then you might not be using the right service because you
Absolutely.
have such strong brand recognition.
Right. We have a very strong brand recognition. We have deep expertise like no other. Our founder is, a former NSA. So we are not just talk, right?
Yes.
We've got the meat.
Right.
We have the expertise.
Yeah.
CISOs trust us, and so we not only know how to build a brand because we have that, right? And I think with brand, you have to be authentic. You can't make it up, right? You can't say, hey, we're the leader in cybersecurity, software company when you don't have that expertise. And so it's easier for me, right? It's easier to build that around it.
So how do you become authentic? Because you're right, I totally agree. And authenticity is key, especially in the world that we live in where consumers have so much information or businesses have so much information at their fingertips now. How do you sort of maintain the integrity of being authentic? How do you do that?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. There's always different ways of how to bring that authenticity out. You always have to start and figure out what it is, right, about this company and what is the history and what is the makeup of it, right? And then how do you rise that and bring that up, right? And so as long as there's true authenticity, there's truth to it, you have what you need and the key ingredients to make that happen, and it's so much easier, right? Instead of making stuff up, right? So even our corporate logo and our marks and our identity, that actually all has history behind it as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let me ask you about that, because I was looking at something today. I'm like, why do they have that? Which is quite unusual, I think. On your logo,
Yes.
you have Carbon Black,
Yes.
and it ends with a period.
Yes. Not a period.
Oh, not a period.
A hex period.
Oh, okay.
That actually formed into our mark, our abbreviated mark.
Got it.
Yeah, which is throughout all our products.
Okay,
Yeah.
I guess I didn't look at it
Yeah.
as closely as
Yeah.
you, because I saw it as Carbon Black period, but it's not a period.
No, it's
a hex mark.
Yep.
Got it. And you have that hex theme throughout your website.
Yeah,
as well.
and it's not because we randomly picked a hex shape, right? Again, there's history behind that, and there's authenticity and story behind that.
Right.
Carbon black, if you think of carbon, it's from the periodic table, carbon, and from there, that chemical element, if you break that apart, it actually starts forming into a hex shape, and then we built, all patterns and assets around that. So from a visual standpoint, though everyone might not know it, there's actually
there's
some
intention
depth to it.
behind
Yeah,
what
that's
that
right.
is.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Makes a lot of sense. You talk about creating a framework to provide inspiration, coaching, educational, and development opportunities for creatives, enabling each one to reach their full potential at Carbon Black. I love that as well. Tell me about what you did there. What framework did you create to, provide inspiration and coaching?
Right. Well, I will kind of, I'll have to say, first of all, as much as I coach, they coach me,
Okay.
right? As much as I share and, provide growth, they are teaching me at the same time. So I have this methodology of how do you, because every single person's different, right? And the bigger their team, there's more diversity in their kind of growth path. And you just have to really have that communication, right? You have to say, okay, what do you want, right, in this? You might be happy now, but are you going to be happy tomorrow? And what is that growth path? And let's build an individual framework and that path to go there, right? As they get smarter, the team gets smarter. As the team gets smarter, I get smarter. I always hire people who are smarter than me. Every single member of my team are smarter than me in one aspect or another. So it's important for their growth. It's important for their career. They're not going to be with me forever, right? Nor should they. And so you want them to succeed, right? As people have wanted me to succeed as well. Yeah.
So, and speaking about your success, and again, going back to your journey, you're a successful female leader with an amazing company. Talk a little bit about your journey. How did you get there? What was sort of your framework and your growth to get to where you're at? And what advice can you give other females that are climbing the ranks and trying to get to a seat at the table?
Yeah. So as a woman,
Yes.
it is a continued effort that you have to make, and let's be honest, right? That it is what it is, and we
Right.
see the ceilings breaking, but at the same time, it's not where we want to be, of
Right,
course.
right.
My greatest, and I didn't have a really a framework around how I was going to get to a certain point, and I know I'm a student, so I'm not even close to where I want to be. The best advice is having a good boss, right?
Okay.
You don't leave a company because the company sucks. You leave because your boss sucks, right?
Right.
You know, and I've had terrible bosses.
Oh, we all
right?
have had that.
Right.
In fact, there's a movie called Bad Bosses out there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But I've had the privilege of having amazing
Horrible
bosses.
bosses. Or
Right,
something.
horrible
Yeah.
bosses,
Yes,
bad
yes,
bosses.
yes, yes.
But I've had the privilege of having at least 3 amazing bosses, right? That I will follow them. If they called me, I said, okay, tell me when, right?
Right.
And they empowered women, right? I've had more women bosses than men, but
Okay.
even my previous CMO, he promoted and empowered women. He trusted us. He, didn't have to always take the credit, and
Right.
and that is giving you the energy to
Right.
do better,
Sure.
right? And
You're empowered.
you're totally empowered, right?
Yes.
And that's what I try to do with people on my team is instill that, right? Not to micromanage, not to feel like, hey, I have to take all the credit. If the team does well, I'm going to be doing well as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
got
yeah,
it.
so.
That's great. Let's bring it back to sort of these internal stakeholders that you talked about in the beginning. You mentioned R&D and product, and we were talking about sales and how marketing is sort of this central hub where you're catering to these clients, right? Because there's so many different needs, and you're pumping out 60 pieces of collateral every month for all these different stakeholders, which is a lot.
Yes.
So how are you? I mean, how do you manage that? What is your secret to sort of this balancing act and having all these different clients and stakeholders that need something, and the end output is obviously a benefit for everything, and it's all part of the consistency of the brand that you're building and continuing to evolve. But how do you sort of manage all of that?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to one of your questions around framework. You have to have a process in place. You have to have a framework,
Yep.
and it does, and you have to have guidelines and rules around it.
Right.
We are department agnostic, right? So it doesn't matter if. Though we're technically under the marketing org, we have dotted lines to pretty much every department and every one, and when you think of, okay, well, if the chief of staff or the chief people officer is asking you for something and the chief product officer is asking you for something, what
Right.
do you do?
And how do you prioritize?
And how do you prioritize it,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So we have this philosophy of it's all time based, right? And you stack it up against priority as well, right? If there's a time sensitivity around that has a weight to it.
Okay.
If it is coming from more of an external presence like a trade show booth, that has a weight to it versus internal, and we tier it up, right? And we say, okay, these all have a point system. It goes into our project management system,
Okay.
and it goes through it, and it's very simple in the sense of the earlier you tell us,
Yeah.
it's in the queue faster.
Got it.
There's a time frame around that, and then we go out with it. So you have to build a systematic process so that you're not being biased, right? You're
Right.
not saying, hey, the CEO asked for this, or
This all goes into the framework,
right.
into the process.
Right.
You stack rank it, you score it based on the importance.
That's
and
right.
then you have the outputs accordingly.
right,
based on
and whether
deliverable
it's
dates.
internal or external too,
Right,
right? So
right.
we try. I mean, that's not going to always happen, right?
Sure, yeah.
I think we strive to do 75-80% of that, all kind of placed in the queue, and then you're going to have these
The outliers come
that's
in,
right,
yeah.
the emergencies.
Right.
And in our industry, you're going to have those random ransomware attacks, right?
Right.
Where all hands are on deck.
Totally.
You have to get things done. You
Yes.
got to pump it out within hours or even within seconds, and
And
you
so
do
when that happens, you sort of have to sort of pause the process and the framework. You kind of go all in to fix this current situation, ship it, hopefully they get what they need, then you're back to
Right.
the day-to-day.
And you try to, I mean, you have to say, okay, what are the critical projects that have to keep moving, right?
Right.
And those, you keep those people moving on. And then who are the people you can pull and delay those process? And, you know, like you said, we service everyone, right?
Yeah,
So we are
right.
working on a sales kickoff conference at the same time. We have a user conference at
Yes,
the, you know,
nice,
so
right.
it's fun.
Right.
It keeps you busy,
Keeps you on your toes
right?
and keeps you busy.
Right.
Never
And you
a
have
dull
to have a
moment.
very tight calendar.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so how big is your team? What does your team look like?
Yeah, so we have the core team, and we also have the extended freelancers and agency, like many companies.
Yep.
You've got your creative team. The smallest team is my web team, actually. Right, I have this fantastic senior website designer, or excuse me, manager that manages the website, and then we have freelance or developers and freelancers that support it. So that is probably the most slim skeletal point. We hope to grow that.
Yeah, well, the
one
website
day.
looks great. by
Yeah,
the way,
thank
so
you.
that's fantastic.
Yeah. We did a lot of work, and it's just touching on the website a little bit. Our website isn't just to bring awareness, right, and to build brand equity. We are trying to generate leads in there. So there's a
Sure.
lot of different functions on the website. So it's a beast. And
Right.
again, it's not just marketing, right? There's a lot of
Yes.
different stakeholders
Right.
in that involved.
So
Yeah.
I can relate intimately with that because there is a branding component, there's a messaging and positioning component, but then there's also this sort of strong pull to generate MQLs.
That's right.
Top of funnel leads.
Yes.
Right? And
Marketing.
marketing for sure.
Yeah,
Everyone's trying to figure out
yeah.
how do I get more leads into the funnel.
Right.
And so what let's just go there a little bit. What have you seen to be effective in terms of lead gen as it relates to the website?
Yeah.
What's working?
Well, I think you have to always think about what's the trends, right? What's going on, and what state is your website, right? And what are tools that are going to help that? So, long story short, and I hope to make it short, I think I try to read a lot. I attempt to, and not your emails and your social media posts and all that stuff, but like really spend on a daily basis, read, even if it's 15 minutes, on something different.
Okay.
Just to broaden and expand my knowledge.
Give me an example.
I don't garden, and I read gardening.
Okay.
That's how random it is.
Just because you want to like just expand your
Yeah,
knowledge base, your
that's right.
curiosity.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
you know how to like plant a tomato plant.
Right,
according to,
and well, I know I read of how to do it. I've never done it. I live in San Francisco, so there's not a lot of place to garden. But
Okay. So just the importance of
yeah,
reading,
right,
and
just
keeping up with trends,
right,
and how does that help you with what you
Yeah.
do?
So the funny story is, I was reading about gardening, which led to a whole path to the website. Many steps forward, it triggered me to think of like, well, how do we engage more people? How do we have a better customer experience? How do we like bring them in? Which led to live chat
Okay.
on our website. So
Interesting.
that's how I propose, hey, let's add a live chat component.
Oh wow. Okay.
So you never know where your inspiration comes from,
Right.
And who would have thought from gardening, which
Uh-huh.
I don't even have gloves to garden, led to a live chat
Live chat.
component that we've added and incorporated to the website. Yeah.
That's really thinking
Yeah.
outside the box, and I really appreciate that sort of stream of thought to get there, because it's unorthodox. But then you landed on a place that I'm sure now you can look at the data, and people are probably using live chat, and you're getting leads through that channel.
That's right. Yeah.
So your background, Elia, is advertising.
That's right. I
Okay.
majored in advertising.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you have this, creative side about you. And so I'm curious, are there specific ad campaigns through the years that you've seen that you really like?
Yes, of course. In fact, because I was majoring in advertising, a lot of my colleagues and friends are in the advertising major or the film major or photography, all in the creative world. So we used to go to Super Bowl parties all the time, right? But we would never watch the game.
Of course. You
We
the
watched
ads.
commercials.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Right, yeah.
But one of my favorite one is the 1999 Anheimer's Bush. What's up?
Uh-huh. Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like,
What's
it is
up?
so funny.
It's so funny.
And you know the reason why I liked it so much, not only is it funny, but it's relatable.
Yeah.
Like you could actually see these guys drinking beer, calling each other.
Saying,
That's right.
What's up?
That's right. What's up? And I don't even drink beer. You
Right,
know?
right, me neither. Yeah.
You don't drink beer. Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no more.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite commercial. It's authentic, right?
Right.
And we always talk about authentic and what does that mean,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
And it's relatable, and it really hit the pop culture by storm. So that's fantastic.
Well, when you talk about Super Bowl ads, the other ones that resonate for me are the Doritos
Oh yeah.
ads. They have some great ads. Every year they come up with something super innovative
Right.
and creative
Yeah.
that works really well.
Yeah. And speaking of just kind of commercials, the Apple. How can you like not talk about the Apple one, right? Then
Yep.
is it 1984?
1984,
Right?
right.
I mean, obviously I watched it after it was live, but what an impact, right? There's
Yes.
probably a reason why it was the #1 commercial of all times.
Right.
It sent such a message, right?
Right.
And I think the other one, as a woman, is the Dove campaigns, right?
Right. That and going back to authenticity.
Right.
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 Right. Keeping it real and
Right.
everyone's not perfect.
That's
and
right.
you can't fix everybody in Photoshop. And
Right.
this is who we are.
And just
yeah.
the empowerment of
Yeah.
being you
Right.
and being happy about it and being
Right.
proud of it.
Yeah.
And, we struggle, right?
Yeah.
We struggle to,
Right.
because there's this image that you at one point had to try to reach up to, and
Sure.
that was just amazing.
Yeah. We need something like that for men, I think, too. I mean, there's nothing like that for men. I think.
Yeah.
Although I'll tell you that the one that comes to mind that I really liked,
Mm-hmm.
which was not on TV, I think it went viral on YouTube, was the ad for Dollar Shave Club.
Oh, yes.
You remember that one?
Yes, love it. Yeah.
That was a great one, authentic, really funny.
Right. And he was the actual founder.
And he was the actual founder as
right.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
that was
Watched
great.
that a couple times. And on that kind of same plane, the Poopery.
Which one is that?
The-
Oh, yes, you're on. That's the British one.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
Oh, that
yeah.
one is so
That
funny.
was so funny.
That is so funny.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
there's a lot of humor
Yes.
to it, and I think those, if you do it well,
Right.
it could go,
Yeah.
hit
Right.
the pop culture.
Right.
If you do it poorly,
Yeah.
then
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
another
That's
story.
sort of the risk
Yeah.
you take, I
Yeah,
think.
that's right.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that part. What's the best part of your job right now?
I hesitate because it sounds cheesy, but I actually do love every component of it. No, that's not true. I don't like the budgeting part.
Okay.
I don't like managing budget.
Uh-huh.
I like the fact that I'm able to mentor, right, the team. That interaction and seeing where they were before and where they are now and how much influence I've had to have them grow, not only in their profession, but also personally.
Right.
That's amazing, right? Because
Yeah.
I know how much my mentors meant to me and the things I've learned.
Right.
I like making impact. The last 4 companies, I've rebranded every single one of them.
Wow.
So going through that process of rebranding the company, 2 of them went IPO. That whole experience was amazing.
Right.
Building a team. So all past 4 companies, I've also built the teams. So from ground up, rolling up your sleeves, getting
Right.
dirty,
Right.
and then being able to stand here and say, "Hell, look at my team. They're
Being
doing
a
all the hard
coach,
work."
being a player,
That's right.
being both,
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
the impact you have.
Yeah, I could have easily gone to, a company that's branded really well, right? They have strong brand equity,
Right.
the Apples and all
Sure.
these other companies.
Right.
To me, it's not a fit, right? I can't make that impact. The brand is so strong. Like, what are you
It's
going to do?
It's already established.
Right. You're
Right.
babysitting, so to speak.
Right.
But yeah, making an impact is the best part, right? I always joke around with my husband. I'm like, I promise you, this is my last startup. I swear. And he's like, sure. Talk to me in your next one and tell me why.
Sounds like you've had a pretty good run.
Yeah.
So keep it going.
Yeah, no, enjoy it.
What's your superpower?
I am very efficient with low sleep, or lack of sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could run really well and on a high efficiency state with 4 hours of sleep a day.
Is that just because you're like driving off of caffeine, or what keeps you going?
Good question. I love caffeine. It could be because I'm a
too.
mom. It could be because of the endurance and experience working at a startup.
Okay.
I have no idea. Or mentally, genetically, I might be able to just work without sleep. But
Amazing.
I can run quite well. And statistic says you need at least 7 hours of sleep. But
Yeah, right.
but yeah,
Unless
that's my
like you're like a
superpower.
yogi, which I guess you must be. Then you
That's
can have
right.
4 hours
Yeah,
of sleep
yeah,
and
yeah.
crush the day.
No, but I
Um,
think that's my superpower. Yeah,
Okay, and
yeah.
so you've been at high intense startups
Mhm.
like you are now, and you've been doing that for quite a while. How do you achieve work-life balance when you're at such an intense sort of pace?
Yeah, I've learned because it never was like that in the beginning at my first startup. But you learn to just focus in that moment, right? I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a professional woman. I have a lot of responsibility. You can't have that all in your head, right?
Right.
You have to focus in that moment. So if I'm with my son, that's all I focus.
So you're staying present.
That's
in
right.
the
You have to
moment.
stay present. Obviously, you have your phone. If there's any
Right.
emergency, I understand, but you have to stay focused on that moment and be present in that moment. Also, I have a very tight calendar.
Uh-huh.
I have a monthly, a weekly, a daily, down to the hourly of
Okay.
what I'm going to do.
And you schedule personal and work time on there?
So I have my personal calendar and I have my work calendar.
Okay.
And so they, on the phone, with technology,
They
they all
merge together.
merge.
Right.
So you know exactly where you are.
Sure.
But Monday through Friday, like I have it down to the hour of
Wow.
what I'm going to do.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so that helps you stay organized.
Absolutely.
You know where you need to be, and then when you're there, you're just completely present
That's
and
right.
giving your full attention.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of hard to do. I would say that's
Absolutely.
another superpower.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of, I mean, that really comes with practice because I think we live in a world where it's so easy to get distracted by your phone or by a text or by an email, which is okay because we all succumb to that. So I think there's an extra effort that I find to stay present and focus in that
Right.
moment. But when you can do that, then it can be transformative.
Yeah. Well, I had a project manager, a fabulous project manager. She actually turned her phone off during those hours. I'm like, I can't do that, but
Right,
I can
right.
stay focused.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
no, that really helps
Yeah.
because. Or else your mind will get distracted, and
Yeah.
you'll just be thinking about, hey, did I do this? Or,
Right.
I
Right.
mean, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when I'm in meetings, I might be multitasking.
Sure,
But
right, right. Don't we all? A
don't we
little
all?
bit.
Right. That's right.
So do you have any daily habits or rituals that keeps you focused and productive and in the flow?
I think that calendar really
Calendar
helps,
works,
right?
yeah.
I do that, typically on a Saturday or Sunday. Just so you have the month planned
Yeah.
out for the most part.
Right.
But you just got to do a quick check-in.
Yeah.
Last minute meetings, adjustments that you have to make.
Right. Right.
Last minute. I don't know.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it
Yeah,
may be,
whatever it
right?
is.
Your car broke down. I don't know.
Hopefully not,
Yeah,
yeah.
hopefully not.
Right.
But yeah, so you make those adjustments.
Got
So
it.
calendar is really something that I keep with me and make sure that's up to date. And then, and not a ritual, but really when you're off and you're on vacation, it's all gone.
Uh-huh.
It is all
You just
gone.
unplug.
I unplug.
Uh-huh.
Don't plan anything.
She was just in Hawaii.
Yeah, I was
in
in
case you
Hawaii.
guys don't
Rajiv
know.
was calling. He's like, "Why do I hear like
Birds.
birds in the
That's
background?"
right.
I'm like, "I'm in Hawaii."
Right. Yeah, one of my favorite places.
Yeah,
So
no.
you were in Hawaii, you
Yeah.
unplugged.
Unplugged.
Okay, and
Yeah.
but then when you come back, don't you have this mountain of emails to get to? Or?
Of course.
Yeah, but you're
right.
okay with that.
Well,
Yeah.
what I do is I scan fast and figure out what is the highest priority, and
There
the
you go.
ones, if they are important, they'll come back, right?
There
That
you
you
go.
might have missed.
Yeah.
Not the best process, but yeah, I mean, I think jokes aside, and
Yeah.
that's not what I do.
Right.
I promise, boss. I read every single one of them.
Right.
There's a day or two, right?
Yeah.
You're just, you're making up for all the days that you were gone. So
For
you
sure.
might be doing 12-hour days,
Yes.
13-hour days,
Right.
but do it fast, do it quick, do it then, so that you can get back into that,
But to your point of
Tree.
just being in the moment when you're on vacation, the only way to do that is to unplug
That's right.
and be where you're
Right.
at to get the most out of it. Because
Right.
then when you do, you come back and you're that much more energized and refreshed.
Refreshed, that's right.
Right, and then
Yeah.
you can crank through your emails in no time
Right,
and be super
right.
productive.
I mean, why waste the time and effort and get your family, irritated,
Right.
going somewhere, but you're not there.
Exactly.
Back to being there and present.
100%.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's all the questions I have for you,
Oh,
Elia.
okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to share
I
with
could
us?
ask you 20 questions. Can I do
You-
that?
You totally can. Of
No,
course.
no.
Of course. You totally
No, this
can.
was
You can-
fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Elia Song Mak, everybody, from Carbon Black, VP of Brand and Creative Services. See you next time.
Bye.